How are you doing? How has March treated you? Are you as ready for April as myself and many other people are? The energy of March has been intense. There has been a lot of back and forth energy. Our solar plexus has the phrase that keeps coming to mind is solar plexus recalibration. Solar plexus being our confidence and empowerment and courage center, our power center within our chakra system. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And it feels like March has been full of rather intense energy. Now, I know there's eclipses and moons and different things that are happening that astrologically can influence us energetically, as well as this year in general feels like it packs a little bit of an extra punch energetically. And a lot of people, it's like March already and we're exhausted. People are craving spring, they're craving sun, and they're craving a way to find better balance and a sense of safety within their own energy and stability, and they're ready to stop this roller coaster of confidence, empowerment, and courage and authenticity and next minute disempowered, fearful, disheartened overwhelm. That roller coaster that it feels like we've been riding between those for the month of March. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. I appreciate your patience. Well, I've been MIA for a couple of weeks. I have this goal of sharing with you on the podcast um, information about our energetic self-care and what that gets to look like and how it feels. And you can't really see with the glare in my glasses how that feels and how that gets to show up in our life. But I have not been organized enough to share that content with you yet. So that must need to happen down the road. And full honest here, I have tried to record this podcast 6 times, easily 6 times. I tried 3 times yesterday and my phone shut off all 3 times. I have tried 3 times today. 6 times a charm, we'll hope. I think at least 3 times yesterday, if not more. And today, my notes that I wanted to talk about to keep myself organized are at the office. So I have to laugh because originally this podcast was born from a thought that I had last Friday. And I recorded the podcast while I was making breakfast. However, there was clinking dishes and cluttering ice and all of that stuff because I was making breakfast. And I'm like, that's not easy to listen to. I got to redo that. And I've been trying for 3 days to redo that, and it's just not working. So, this is the episode I'm going to share with you. Whether it makes sense, whether it works or not, if this one doesn't work, I'm going to say, I can't share this. I'm done. So, the resistance has been loud within the podcast. However, there has been some resistance within my own energy with imposter syndrome and disempowerment, as well as moments of empowerment and self-validation. So it's par for the course. Plus, we're in retrograde, and notoriously, things like electronics and stuff like this sometimes go wonky during retrograde. So let's take a breath and let's send intentions that this episode, this round, goes smooth, that I am able to share clear messages and content, you are able to receive clear messages and content, and that we move forward into spring with light and joy and peace and stability and power and balance. Okay. So last Friday, I've actually been doing this thing on my social media. You can find me at Unique Beauty and Meditation on Instagram to explore it because Instagram is where I share most. I do share on Facebook, so you might be able to find it both places. Admittedly, sometimes I forget to put it on Facebook too. However, I've been doing this thing called Coffee and Cards for the last week and a half. And the idea is that we open up some cards and we look for some inspiration within the day. And I share a little bit while I'm drinking my coffee what some of this inspiration gets to be. And Fridays was a message of what self-care do we need as we move into the weekend. And I pulled out a self-care deck by Cheryl Richardson and we drew the card, It Gets to Be Easy. And there was a deep dive journey into the deep dive contemplation into the notions of allowing things to be easier and that we get to let some ease into our life and that sometimes we overthink and we over ruminate and we overcomplicate things. And that energy is exhausting. It's exhausting on top of other energies that are exhausting. And it sparked this whole contemplation. And within that contemplation, I was making breakfast and it was too noisy. So here I'm trying to make it easier to listen to. But when we look at the energy of allowing things to be easier, it also requires us to look at where things are difficult and how we make it more difficult for ourselves. The notion of overthinking and overanalyzing and over ruminating is something that happens so often in our life and that a lot of us do. That's one of the reasons that I got into meditation is because I had a hard time sleeping at night because I would overthink and overprocess. And that is one of the key things that I hear often within the work I do with energy work and meditation is I'm overthinking. I can't sleep at night because my mind just goes. So that notion of letting it be easier sometimes isn't easy. So when we look at that overthinking and overprocessing, don't get me wrong. I'm a deep dive conversation girl from way back. I love to get into deep dive, juicy conversations. Heck, our intuitive contemplation sessions are a really great space for us to have a really juicy, self-aware conversation. But that leans a little bit more to listening to our intuition and letting our intuition guide us versus being stuck in the overthinking and rumination. And there's a different energy to that. And we get to talk about what that looks like today. So sometimes I think our over ruminations and our overthinking and our tendency to overcomplicate things is a way to gain control in a space where things may feel out of control. And that notion of that control and that safety and that stability is very much a root chakra energy. Our safety and our stability and our grounded nature happen in our root chakra. And that notion of having control or having power over things, that feels like it sits in our solar plexus, which is our power center, our confidence center, our courage center. So it's one of those things where it feels like we're reaching to create a sense of safety and stability within our life by controlling all of the external factors. Now, taking control of our life is a really powerful tool, and it gets to be a powerful energy that shows up in the balance of our energy of life. However, when it is taking you away from your sleep, or it is triggering anxious energy in you, or it's making you feel overwhelmed, then maybe there's too much control. And we got to find a way to find a better balance. So let's look at that from an energetic chakra standpoint. Now, there are notions of overthinking and anxiety and ruminations and control and over control that definitely are something that you get to talk to your mental health practitioner and your physical health practitioner so that they can give you the resources that you need on a very active personal level. Today, our conversations are about the energy and how that energy shows up. This is meant to supplement that, not replace it. I am not a medical professional, as you heard in the disclaimer in the beginning, but I wanted to put that out there that you get to reach out to all the avenues for your care and support. So, one of the things that feels is coming up energetically within this conversation is the notion of finding safety and stability within our life, finding ways to ground our energy so that we can find a little bit more power and confidence within our day-to-day process and live confidently within our life and listen to a little bit of that instinctive intuition that we have or that inner knowing is a really powerful process we get to embrace. And it feels like that process is one of the ways that helps us surrender and let go of some of that overthinking, let go of that need to control all the details that we are experiencing. The idea that we get to listen to that inner voice and that intuition a little bit more, and it gets to be a little bit easier to hear it. Because this is what happens. So we have this safety and stability and grounded energy in our root chakra, which helps us feel stable. And the root chakra feels like it so then supports the other chakras. But when we have this safety and stability in our root chakra, then we feel more confident and empowered. And then in turn, we can listen to that inner intuition, that inner knowing, and that inner wisdom that we're carrying that can help to foster a sense of control and guidance within our own life. So when things are balanced, it feels like those are the connections that are happening. And that's when we feel stable and we feel grounded and we feel centered in ourselves and we feel like we've got this and we're listening to that inner knowing and the intuition and we're making choices easy and it's easy to make decisions and move in a direction. However, when that process gets thrown off, that's when we get stuck in that rumination. That's where we get stuck in that lack of confidence and that lack of self-worth. That's where we stop listening to that inner voice in our head and we end up hearing all of this other stimulation that becomes overwhelming. And we feel like we have to filter and control and hold back all of that stimulation in order to find that little voice again, when really we have to start by that foundational place of finding that safety and stability and grounding in our life. So it is hard to hear. We all have an intuition. Let me back up. We all have an intuition. We all have an gut instinct. Gut instinct. Part of our intuition energy happens in our solar plexus. The other part happens in our brow chakra. That inner knowing and that gut instinct. So we have this little voice that whispers our unique expression of that inner wisdom. However, it's patient, it's not loud, and we get to work on listening to it a little bit more. We get to become its friend and listen to how it says things and how it shows up in our life, its cadence and its connection within our lifestyle. It's a conversation we get to start having within through things like meditation and intuitive contemplation and journaling and different activities that help us foster a connection with that inner knowing. And there's a process of including the heart and including the crown chakra and building faith in ourselves that we get to listen to that. However, we are so stimulated in life. There is so much coming at us all the time that all of this stimulation becomes louder and demands our focus so that we forget to listen to this inner wisdom. And this overstimulation then leads to overthinking and overprocessing and becomes this energy that is in our life that we are just simply trying to settle down. It's like it's like when you get home, anybody that has a dog. It's not always bad. Sometimes it's good. But it's like the energy of when you get home from work and you have a dog and they're really excited. It's not always bad, but it's overwhelming. And you want them to just sit for a minute, let you get your shoes off, and take a break. I do have people that can help you train your dogs to do that if you need that. Reach out to me. I can connect you. However, that type of energy is a good visual for recognizing that overstimulation. So, when we are trying to find our balance with all of the stimulations that happen in life, we aren't able to hear this natural inner wisdom, this natural intuition. So we have to find balance in stillness and grounded energy within our body. We have to find safety and stability within our root chakra so that we can build that confidence and trust in listening to that intuition. So does that make sense? It's become harder to hear this and demanding to hear this chaos. And in order to make things easier, we have to find that safety and stability first so that we can find our own authentic energy and way to move forward. Okay, that's great. How are we doing this? So it feels like some of the ways that we can do this right now within our life are by starting to work with our root chakra and our solar plexus. So when we're working with our root chakra, the first thing I'm going to recommend is a safety and stability meditation. I'm a meditation person from way back. Give me a guided visual meditation. It lets me sit still. It lets me focus on my breath and it guides me through it so I don't have to figure it all out by myself. Excuse me, that is great. Not everybody's a meditator. How else can you work with your root chakra? Like I said, you can go back to the previous episodes and watch the whole episode where me and Danielle Graham talk about it. However, other ways that you can do it are standing outside, going outside for even just 10 minutes helps to settle that energy and wash away. Give it time to settle. People have such a hard time just being still. Leave your phone inside when you go outside. I know. What am I talking about? Not having your phone on you? I fully understand that. Mine's right over here. I've been on it doing work all day. It's natural for us to carry those now that it feels unnatural sometimes to set it down and walk away from it. Set the phone down, walk outside, feel your feet on the ground, and breathe the fresh air. Stand next to a tree, sit next to a tree, walk through the forest, hike in the mountains, walk down the road, stand next to flowing water. Flowing water hits hits on a couple different levels. First off, if you're standing next to flowing water, chances are you're standing out in nature. Grounding energy right there. Also, the notion of flowing water leans into that sacral chakra a little bit because the flow of our emotions happens in our sacral chakra. But that's a conversation for another day. So go stand next to flowing water, and anybody that is close to the ocean and has the ability to go stand next to the ocean, do it. There is such a different type of grounding that happens from the ocean. Maybe I'm just partial, but it's a soothing, natural balancing, grounding energy when you're next to the ocean, do it. Take a video clip, send it to me, or just send a message after yours because you don't need to have your phone by the ocean. And send a message and say, I went to the ocean and it was fantastic, and I'll live vicariously through you. So those are some ways that you can work with your root chakra. And some of my other favorite stones to work with for the root chakra. I don't know if I have any of them here. None of them are here, of course. Hematite. Oh, I'm not pulling them off the bracelet tree because they'll all go bad. Hematite, it's a shiny black stone. Red jasper, you can Google these. And mahogany obsidian is the one that I have been wearing most often this year to help ground my energy. Those are ones that are great for the root chakra. There's also root chakra hertz music that you can look up. Root chakra music that you can look up wherever you find your music, Spotify, YouTube, wherever. Um, so those are some of the ways that we're going to work on balancing our root chakra. Introduce them little bits at a time, one at a time. Now we can meet in person and customize a mini energy session or a full energy session to focus on the root chakra first and then balancing the others as well. We absolutely can do that work. Just reach out. We can have a whole conversation and customize it just for you. So the next one was a solar plexus. When we are looking at the solar plexus, and when I was thinking about this the other day, on the first few times I tried to record this, I found that it feels like we get to take a moment to reflect on what our solar plexus needs. Because sometimes we need to empower and fill up our confidence and find that sense of empowerment and confidence within our life and fuel our solar plexus. And other times it feels worn out, stressed out, and overstimulated. And we actually have to find some peace and balance in order to balance out our solar plexus. So here's what we're going to do for our solar plexus. We are going to my brain just blinked fully. Okay. Here's what we're going to do for our solar plexus. You're going to take a moment. You're going to pause. You're going to breathe. And you're going to just check in. Take 3 deep breaths. Hold. You don't have to do it right now, but keep this as a notion that you get to. Hold your hands on your belly. Take 3 deep breaths and ask, what does my solar plexus need today? And then listen to what comes up. Maybe you practice this for 3 days in a row. Holding your hands. Maybe you hold your hands on your heart and on your belly. You can't see it, but my hand's over my belly button. And you're going to breathe at least 3 smooth, deep breaths. And then you're going to ask, what does my solar plexus need today? When I first recorded this podcast and checked in with my solar plexus needed some peace because it was overstimulated and my power was a bit worn out. So it needed me to sit and find balance, grounding my energy so I could clear away the extra and find my center again. However, Friday to Tuesday, on Tuesday, I completely needed an activity to fill my power up and to fuel me and to show me my capabilities. In those moments where that notion of incapability and imposter syndrome or lack of self-worth bubbled up, finding a space that I could feel powerful, feel accomplished, and acknowledge my capability became something that helped to fuel what was lacking in my solar plexus. So what did I do? I went to work out with my family at the firehouse. And that workout balanced out my root chakra and fueled my solar plexus in a whole different way. Sitting and meditating, finding that peace and center, one day offered me that grounding and balance. and helped my energy settle so I could listen and balance out that solar plexus a little bit more. I think maybe I even used some affirmations like I'm valid, I'm capable, I'm worthy, I'm enough, what have you. When the next day or 3 days later, the movement in my physical body grounded my energy and fueled that power within me. Completely different activities that showed up to support my energy the way I needed to. And I think that's where we get to start having a conversation. And that's where that intuition gets to show up in our life. We get to start listening to that inner knowing. We get to slow down and ask ourselves, what's going on? What do I need? And what supports me moving forward? And if we don't know what we need and we don't know what supports us, that's okay. You don't have to have the answers. Then maybe you ask, where can I go to find the answers? And if you don't know, that's the part that brings in that trust and faith part, that higher awareness, connecting to a higher knowing, asking the universe, asking our divine circle, asking our angels, and who we celebrate as a higher power. Okay, this is what I need in my life. Help me find the way to it. Show me where to go to get this. Show me where to go to get help and support in this manner. And then be quiet and listen to that guidance. But if we're always constantly stimulated and overwhelmed energetically, then we lose our ability to listen to ourself, listen to our body, listen to our minds, and listen to that divine energy that surrounds us and is there to support us. So there we go. That feels like a lot of what we've been learning in March, in this year in general, I guess. How does that hit you? I really need your support in knowing if this all makes sense or if it's too much and I got to slow down and explain it differently. Because to be honest, at this point, I've tried a few times and I'm still not sure, but I'm going to trust. I'm going to listen to that voice, that higher awareness that tells me it's okay, put it out there anyway. And I'm going to trust that if you need me to explain it different, you're going to let me know. And I'm also going to trust that if this acknowledges something that's happening in your life, you're going to let me know too. So we can have a conversation about it. We get to know that, you know what, this is happening in many different ways. Ooh. So as I'm shuffling the Field Tarot deck by Hannah Elizabeth Fofana, two cards fell out, and we're going to talk about them. We have got Reliability and High Priestess. I love these. Okay, so we're going to start off with her. She's in her element. When we are talking about either this overstimulated energy or centered in herself, when we talk about that flow of grounded, empowered, intuitive, understanding our self-aware self, that's what she embodies. She's balanced, she's stable. Heck, she even looks like maybe she came out of a fresh meditation. She feels like she's ready to take on the day. She isn't overstimulated. She's listening to her own self. She is her own high priestess of energy. She is tapped into that intuitive, that inner dialogue that she has, and she's ready to use it to help her guide her way through life. And then we have this reliability card. He just talks of strength and reliability and moving forward and helping and supporting and protecting. Are you creating the energy that is reliably protecting and adding strength and support within your life to listen to that inner knowing and to listen to that higher priestess within you, to listen to that energy within you and what it wants to do? Are you protecting your energy? Are you supporting your energy? And are you being reliable with how you do that. And the more reliable we are, the more we can start to hear that inner wisdom that's there ready for us. The more we can start to live more authentically with that inner intuition that we get to have. How do these cards hit you? If you're not listening, if you're listening to this and not watching it, that's okay. Um, you don't have to, but for those of you that are watching visually like you watch any other way, what do you think? How do they hit you? What sticks out for you for them? Very cool. Very cool. So there we go. I love it. Thank you for sharing in this conversation today. And to finish off, I want to share a client experience with you because I've been sharing them a little bit more, and I think it's exciting to see how people are showing up for themselves and the way things happen within what I do. So I have this client who comes in, and one of the things that she is experiencing is asthma. And there are certain times of the year and certain times in life where this asthma kicks up a little bit more. And she comes in for energy work. And when she comes in, we talk about what's going on, and we lay her down on the bed and we go through the Reiki bed and we go through and do some energy work. And I noticed something that was happening within our energy sessions. And I just assumed that it was happening because she was laying on the bed and she was physically settling down. And I'm sure some of it was because of that, because a simple physical act of laying on the bed. However, we had a conversation about it last time she came in. So she comes in and you can hear the asthma on the days that she's struggling with it. You can really hear the asthma active in her experience as she comes and she sits down and we talk. But this really cool thing happens when we start doing energy work. When we get in there and we start doing energy work, and often it happens when we're at the root, creating that energy within the root of balance, safety, and stability within this energy work at the root chakra. Her breathing shifts and you can physically see her settle down. You can hear her breath settle in. You can hear her breath move more smoothly through her body. And you can see the peace physically move through her, and her energy settles on a physical level. So when we went through this and I recognized this pattern within the last couple of visits, when we got to the end of the conversation, I told her, I said, so this is something I've noticed within your energy work, that as we move through, your breathing shifts and you can hear a noticeable difference in that breathing from when you came in. Now, I'm sure some of it happens simply because she's laying down on the table and she's settling. But is that something that I asked her, I said, is that something that you experience when you sleep at night? And she's like, no, not all the time. So she doesn't always find that peaceful of a breath when she sleeps at night as when she's in her energy session. And she shared with me how that looks a little bit different at night. And what was really cool is that we both acknowledged after the energy session, when she got up to leave, how different her breathing was from when we started. And it was a really cool example of how sometimes our energy can influence us physically. Again, none of this replaces physical health care, and it is not a cure all. However, it accents that energetic component that happens on a physical level. And the notion of that energy work or that Reiki offering some peace and stress relief in the body helps to adjust those energies so it supports a healthier balance of energy within the body. And it was just a really cool example of that, so I wanted to share that with you. Have you ever had any experience with that energy work that jumps out at you like that, where you've noticed a big shift? Maybe it's a emotional release, or maybe it's a physical settling, or maybe it's a ease of something that happens in your body or your mind through the process, or maybe it's a imagery or a spiritual connection that happens. If you have, reach out. I would love to have a conversation about that. So there we go. Here we are at the end of the podcast. And I think I did it. I think I finally recorded it this time. So if you are hearing this episode and you enjoy this episode, let me know. Because then I know, hey, it was worth the 7 tries to get there or 6 tries to get there. And if you appreciate the podcast, I'm asking for your support in sharing it with a friend or sharing it on social media and just getting the word out there a little bit. Maybe leaving a review wherever you find this podcast is really helpful to build awareness and to let me know, hey, this is good. Keep putting the energy into it. I appreciate you. I appreciate your energy, and you get to celebrate your uniquely beautiful self.